join me in welcoming Patrick Reynolds.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. And I just really, I guess, first thing I want to say is I want to thank and applaud the vision of Lakeland Healthcare to bring me here and to focus the community's attention on smoking and on tobacco issues, and to get me in front of 500 or 600 middle school children tomorrow morning. I mean, wow, you know, you guys should come to that, because there I'm like really styling. You know, it's like that's where I shine. It's like there's fireworks when I talk to kids. You know, here we do have to go into some slides with percentages of this and the grades that Michigan gets in tobacco control, and you know, but tomorrow morning that won't be in my talk. It's just pictures, and you know, they don't care about the health consequences. They do not care that they might die when they're 40. 40, that's old. They care about looking cool. They do not want the tobacco industry marketing to be in their face. So I'm going to show you a bunch of the slides that I will be showing to the children tomorrow. And it's so exciting to me to get 500 middle school kids where I get to make a difference. And tonight we're going to explore a little bit about the tobacco control report card for Michigan. We'll compare it to Indiana just for fun. You guys win. And I think Indiana gets 3 Fs and a D, and you get 2 Fs and a B and a C. We'll go into what those grades are for and all that. But before I get into that, I want to tell you a story or two about the Reynolds family, because it would be like if Paris Hilton or Kim Kardashian or Ivanka Trump got up in front of a group and didn't say a word about her family. So I owe you that. R.J. Reynolds, my grandfather, founded the tobacco company in 1875, and he didn't know the dangers of smoking. He introduced Camels in 1913, and he was worried that the paper might cause cancer. So he, you know, expressed those sentiments to his brother, and his brothers came to him a few weeks later and said, "Don't worry, R.J., the paper does not cause cancer. We ran tests in Baltimore and in St. Louis." And R.J. said, "I'm so glad, roll them out." Now, that whole story could have been concocted by a public relations flack for the company. So we'll never know if it's really true. But he did briefly delay the introduction of Camels. He was a very colorful guy. Prior to, you know, introducing Camels, which was launched, by the way, with the first advertising campaign, national ad campaign of any product in America. They took out full-page ads in multiple major city newspapers all over the country. And the ad said 3 words, "Camels are coming." The next day, tomorrow in your town, there's going to be more camels than in all of Saudi Arabia and Egypt combined. And people said, "Camels?" And they were visioning camels and herds of camels marching through their cities. And the next day it said, "Today you can buy Camel cigarettes at your local tobacconist." Well, and my grandmother wrote the slogan on the back, "Don't look for premiums or coupons, as the cost of the tobacco splendid in Camels prohibits the use of them." And my grandfather, she was a worker in the factory, and when he read that, he said, "She wins," and I guess she was pretty, and he said, "I'm going to marry her." So that was R.J.'s wife. He married late. And that really, I think, more than any other single factor, caused the downfall of my family. I wrote a book about the Reynolds family called The Gilded Leaf, and I wrote it with a great writer who's now very critically acclaimed, Tom Shackman, wonderful biographer. And we traced the course of the rise of the family over 3 generations and its decline. And I think that the decline was precipitated by my grandfather's obsession with his rise, his meteoric rise as a robber baron of the turn of the century, 1900, coming up in industry. And with his rise, he became so self-absorbed and caught up with his business and his importance in the community and so on, that he forgot to get married until middle age. So RJ marries at age 52 or 53, and his first child is born when he's 55. He dies when my father was only 12 years old when his father, the patriarch, died. Now you got two kinds of rich people. You got the rising business class, the declining old rich. Rising business class say to their kids, when you grow up, you're going to have to go to work and get a job. We're not supporting you anymore, so you better figure out how to go to work, because you're not getting inherited money. We may leave it all to a foundation, like what Warren Buffett did. Of course, his kids each got $1 billion foundation, and with that comes a 6-figure salary, and we didn't mention that part. But he didn't entirely abandon his children, but he did want them to work, which is smart. Unfortunately, RJ didn't put any stipulations much like that in his will, and I think my dad would get $1 for every dollar he earned on his own, but so he bought a tramp freighter and converted it into a little, a luxurious yacht, and he would haul tobacco around the Horn of Africa. And when he was chained to a tree, recovering from the delirium tremens because he liked to drink, it was the 1920s and he was in his teens. My father got the news that his brother had been shot through the head, and the Reynolds family is full of colorful stories like that. The younger brother was married to a big star, Libby Holman, and there was a big tabloid scandal whether Libby Holman had murdered her younger husband for the money. And of course she didn't. He probably shot himself. We'll never know, because it was never solved. But that's the kind of tale or two that I will impart to you as a bit of color from my family. I think that RJ's absence caused, I think, my father to not pay a lot of attention to his kids, and so that began a chain of fatherlessness. And my father was married 4 times. Let's see if I can get that to. There he is, a little before World War II. My mother was the second wife. He showered her with chains of rubies and emeralds, and she thought they went well with her red hair. And my dad, of course, became a playboy in the 1920s, loving to fly airplanes, and he had a pilot's license signed by Orville Wright. And later he would invest in airlines. Citizen Kane had a sled, Rosebud. My father had airplanes, so he would invest in airlines. And around 1958, was the largest stockholder in Delta Airlines. There I am in 48 on the right, 2 weeks old. We will move on from that. That's my older brother, Mike. And now we get into some of the stories I'll tell at the school tomorrow. Because a good speaker, and many of you are speakers, you're going to get out there and engage the audience by the heart. And I like to engage the children by the heart when I talk about my father's absence in my life and his death from smoking. Now, my dad was divorced from my mom when I was 3. There we are in the duplex of Beekman Place in New York City. This is one of the homes she got in the divorce. And they called me Sad Sack. I carried a lot of sadness around because, where was my dad? And that was the root of it. I was a laughing boy, smiling a lot. But underneath that, there was a current of sadness. And again, a little bit sulky with the fire department of New York, Cadillac in front of my mother's home for an event of some kind she was having, a charity, no doubt. So when I was 9, I wrote my dad a letter, and the letter said, "Dear Dad, where are you? I want to meet you." And he was traveling, and the letter was forwarded 7 times. And I'll ask the children tomorrow, how many of you do not have your biological father living at home with you? So quick show of hands, how many of you grew up without your biological dad living in the house with you? Anybody? Wow, so great. Families here stay together. I must be in the heartland. It's wonderful. But I've spoken in cities where I see 1/3 of the hands go up. I see half of the children's hands go up. And I say, I don't know how you, I'll tell them tomorrow, I don't know how you feel about that. But today I want you to get in touch with what you're feeling. Know what you're feeling. Know your anger, your sadness, your joy, your love, your fear, your shame. I want you to know what you're feeling and above all be able to talk to another person about it. That's a recurring theme in my talk for the children, to connect with other people. Because people who succeed best, I will tell the children, connect with others. They get help. A businesswoman, a businessman gets a lawyer to write the contracts, a marketing person to do the marketing, an advertising person to do the advertising, a marriage counselor when their marriage isn't what it could be, a doctor when they're sick, and so on. An accountant to do the accounting, whatever. So when you connect with other people, you succeed better in life. And that's a core theme that comes up 3 times in my talk for the children. Don't try and shoulder a problem alone, but connect with the trusted teacher, the school counselor, your friends, your parents. Anyway, my dad was not there, so I wrote him a letter. He sent for me, and I'm on the plane going up to meet him on one of those big Delta jets, which had just come into service in 1958. And he was the biggest stockholder of the company at that time. And when my mom brought me up to believe he was wonderful, and when they showed me into the room where he was, I found him there lying down on his back. I said, "Dad, what's wrong?" "I have asthma, son." "Well, anything to do with your smoking?" I asked. "No, I don't think so, smoking like this." There's R.J. Reynolds, dying from the product that made him rich, powerful, famous. And I only got to see him 5 times after that. Every time I saw my father, he was increasingly sick, frail, counting the time that he had left to live. So that had a great deal to do with why I would later choose to turn my back on my family's company and fortune and walk away. And to do everything in my power to connect with young people, especially to prevent them from getting addicted in the first place, to empower smokers to quit successfully. That's why I founded the Foundation for a Smoke-Free America in Los Angeles, where I live. And I'll do this work the rest of my life. And I'm committed to it. It's not just because of my father's death. I also get to make a difference doing this work. Being a Reynolds, I discovered, gave me a platform to shine the spotlight of public attention on whatever tobacco issues a community might be facing. So I've first spoke out publicly in Congress in 1986, and my testimony in Congress, when I actually agreed to speak out publicly, having been invited, somebody heard I was anti-smoking, was carried on all the major news media, and I was catapulted into the national spotlight. And I was besieged with requests for speaking engagements and TV interviews and all that. And I began answering the call. Smoking bans were partial at that time. "We're having a no smoking area in our town, and you're going to have a no smoking area." And some people said, "Are you kidding? We've always had smoking, don't change." But we were going to have a no smoking section. There was resistance to that.